All squadron leaders reporting!
Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Now, I will say, it's been a while since I've done a video that I'm really excited on the topic for, because I know a bit about it beforehand. But don't get me wrong, I love the other topics I make. But today's different because we're going to be covering one of the most elite Special Force X-Wing units in the Rebellion, / of course, New Republic. So, without further ado, say hi to Wedge Antilles, because here's Rogue Squadron. Now, I read the first Rogue Squadron Legends book, and I'm a bit into the second book. And I mean, man, are they amazing so far. But that's not what we're here for. So, let's dive in and talk about some of the more famed members. Wedge Antilles and, of course, Cran Horn. Now, I presume you all have most likely have heard of Wedge Antilles from the past Star Wars movies, but maybe not Cran Horn. But, don't get me wrong, both are extremely experienced and incredible pilots. Rogue Squadron, of course, operated at a 12-pilot crew, but usually split off into smaller subgroups depending on the situation or mission. But what is important to note is that the squadron only operated with X-Wings. Some missions needed the support of other ships like the Y-Wings, but mainly, of course, they used the X-Wings, which made them extremely potent against other snub fighters. Anyways, now the Rebel Alliance, or the New Republic, didn't have nearly as many Special Forces units, of course, as the Empire, so many were used for multiple jobs or were able to do many things. My favorite, of course, is probably in Rogue Squadron Wedge's Gamble. We find out that the Rogue Squadron are tasked to infiltrate Coruscant. That's all I'll say for now because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. This, combined with all their success as one of the greatest and deadliest squadrons in the galaxy, has given them a sort of mythological stigma within the galaxy. And when Imperial pilots or other opposition face them, they're in shock due to the stigma and them getting taken down so easily. One of my favorite parts within the series, of course, the Legend series, which by Michael Stackpole, a great author, but one of my favorite parts is that it just shows what they're doing inside the cockpit and really how well they are at their jobs. Because Karan, when we're seeing his point of view, takes them down so quickly. Anyways, this combined with all their success is what makes them one of the greatest and deadliest squadrons in the galaxy. And of course, gave them the stigma. Anyways, Rogue Squadron is dated and a long-driven force that has been around for some time, but it was disbanded for a period of time after the Battle of Endor, which we should all pretty much know. They were disbanded because the rebellion didn't believe they needed a group as potent as them anymore, which is kind of stupid if you think about it, because there's plenty of other pirates, and as you expand your rebellion, you gotta move on, and you gotta have these powerful forces. But as the Empire did resurface, it was up to Wedge Antilles and the Mon Calamari Admiral Akbar to recruit pirates and revive their famed squadron. So, about a year and a half after Endor, Admiral Akbar approached Antilles with plans from the New Republic Provisional Council for reforming Rogue Squadron. They directed Antilles to rebuild the legendary unit from the ground up, revitalizing it and overall just making it better, with the galaxy's best pilots at hand. Having seen too many members die soon after joining the Rogues, Antilles saw the wisdom in the decision, although all of the squadron's veterans wanted to see it continue unbroken. They also wanted its pilots to get the necessary training for survival, and Rogue Squadron was temporarily disbanded, of course, after Endor, as I said earlier, and Antilles was taken off active duty, which is pretty shit because Antilles is one of the best veterans of any war that the rebels participated in. And the Rogues became an important symbol of the New Republic propaganda, so it was more that they weren't really around anymore, which helped their stigma because they weren't around and no one ever saw them actually fighting, but they did see these posters and everything the New Republic put out. So after this, Antilles was sent on a nearly year-long publicity tour visiting new member worlds to deliver speeches, kiss babies, and pose for holograms, which, if you ever read anything on Wedge Antilles or knew anything about him, this wasn't his style, and I get why he'd be mad. Anyways, so the squadron's exploits were played out, and in an effort to pick the new government as heroes, rather than the bandits they had been cast as by the Empire, they were brought back. What I also want to talk about or bring up is a lot of times at the beginning of Wedge's new squadron, they faced a lot of backlash and pushback from the Rebel Provisional Council on many missions. Most of the time, it was due to them shorting the needed supplies for the mission that the Rogue Squadron needed, or not believing in their true power as Deadly Squadron, which Akbar did his best to act on and help the squadron whenever he could. Mon Mothma also was a giant help with them getting their supplies and their mission objectives, which if you watch the new Andor show, you'll see a lot about her. She's depicted pretty great there. But what I did find a little unfair most of the time is in the case of the Rogue Squadron was the supplies but also the data given to them before some of their missions. For example, the most prominent was at the beginning of the Battle of Borealis, which ended in a rebel victory but not without some setbacks. Okay, so basically, the council would not tell the rogues location of the planet they were needed to fight on, which hopefully you can already see the problem with that. So they'd only get this information a week or two before the mission. All they had were the parameters for their flight paths and what they had to do, which is kind of funny. So if you've seen the new Top Gun movie, is kind of similar to that. Not really, so just never mind. But of course, in Rogue Squadron fashion, they were able to complete the mission. But again, not without some mishaps. Crane Horn, aka Rogue 9, was trapped on the planet afterwards, and he was low on fuel and was forced out of his hole in the planet by some TIEs for patrolling, because he was forced to land at the planet and he was hiding. So, spoiler ahead in the next 30 seconds or 20 seconds or so. He was then caught in a gravitational well and was shot at from multiple angles from TIEs. Killing multiple, he was then saved by Tycho Kelchu. Before we talk about Kelchu though, can we just realize how impressive that is? He's trapped in a gravity well, and he has nothing else to do but sit there, and all he can do is just maneuver his ship to turn around at 360 degrees. Anyways, about Kelchu though, was on sort of house arrest, because he had a troubling past, which I'm not going to get into too much because I don't know too much about it, but it involves the Empire. But besides all that, they did make it back, with Cran playing a joke on Wedge at the same time, which you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Overall, Rogue Squadron was an extremely potent and deadly force, with many really great characters and members, so hopefully in the future they make some sort of maybe Rogue One style or Solo style movie on them, but let's be honest, won't happen with Star Wars track record. Make sure to go check out my other Star Wars videos that I have up if you want, and let me know if you'd like an even more in-depth review of the famed Rogue Squadron. Other than that, goodbye.